that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. How are you, buddy?
Very well. Enjoying lockdown.
Enjoying lockdown. You clearly are one of the only ones enjoying lockdown. I am hating every bit of lockdown right now.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, lockdown is actually quite a good analogy for what we're going to talk about later. But we'll see how we connect it up. It's been nice to reset.
Okay.
Let me just put it out.
Right. Now, before we go too far, you are live on the lockdown edition of the Feeling Station, so please do not say your name, okay?
Indeed, that I won't do.
Because one of the things that's important is for us to keep you anonymous and to also keep the name of the person that you're going to talk about anonymous.
All right. Okay. No, that's fine. No, I think that's important. You know, these days you get sued, for.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not about to get sued now, are we?
Indeed.
So now to get the ball rolling, I've got a name that I've picked out for you, right? So this is the name that I'm going to call you by to keep you anonymous. And the name that I picked up is from West Africa, Nigeria in particular.
What's the name?
And the name is Amandi. Amandi. Amandi.
That was fun.
Yeah? Okay, so that's Amandi. And this name actually means trust no one, as one who doesn't trust anyone easily. And I need to probe this. Is this by any chance a reflection of your character?
No, actually, it's
okay.
As I think my ordeal might reveal.
Okay.
I tend to find myself as quite trustworthy, but I like the name, and the name is actually apt because my story is actually based in West Africa.
So, for anybody listening to this podcast for the first time, the podcast touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about with the view to give lessons that either you could learn or someone that you know within your spheres could learn from. So, Amandi, what lesson should we expect to learn from your story today?
I think the key lesson is having 3 girlfriends is maybe too many.
Having 3 girlfriends is maybe too many. Oh my goodness!
That's probably the key lesson. But
jeez,
I think stick to one. Stick to monogamy, guys. Stick to monogamy.
I mean, but isn't that the basic principle of life anyway? Stick to one.
Well, here's the thing. So sticking to one is much like lockdown.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You also, and we all understand that lockdown can become a bit stifling.
Yes.
It can become a bit claustrophobic.
Yes.
And so it's about learning to deal with being in lockdown. And that's the challenge you get with one. But there's also, when outside is open, this is now the part where you have more than one. I mean, there are benefits of being able to go to the gym when you want to go to the gym, being able to go to the pub, having options.
Oh my goodness.
The ultimate lesson of my story is sticking to one, even though it has its pros and cons, is probably better than the approach that I took, which I think we're going to break down in more detail as we progress. So that would probably be the key takeaway.
Now, it would have been easier for me to remember one girl's name. Now, this is going to be completely difficult for me to remember 3 girls' names. So do you mind if I call, I don't know if you had a main chick, if I call a girl 1, and then one who was the second main chick, girl 2, and then the other one, girl 3. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep track.
Well, what we can do is, so the way in picking my 3 girlfriends, what I did is, I was a big fan of Captain Planet as a kid, right? So one was Earth, the other one was fire, and the other one was water. So maybe I should just explain quickly how that came about. So
I think you might as well just crack into the story. Go for it.
All right. Let's get into the story then.
Yeah.
So, look, I, as a young man just trying to figure life out, I struggled with the idea, and I don't know what the PG rating on this is, but
18 plus. So feel free to say anything and everything.
All right, that's cool. I struggled with the idea as a young man, and I'm unmarried, by the way.
Okay.
Having one cooch for 40 years for vagina, that was tough for me to process.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, look, I at the time was in my early 30s, maybe like 31. And what I thought to myself was, what have I done consistently in my 31 years of life that gives me confidence to think that I'll be able, when I get married, to stand in a church in front of God, my peers, my friends, my parents, and vow that for the next 40 years, I'm going to consistently deal with one. And the conclusion I came to is really the only thing I've done consistently every day for the 31 days I've been alive is breathe.
Yeah.
I haven't even woken up. I haven't even woken up every day. I haven't bathed every day. I haven't eaten every day. And so I just came to the conclusion that, look, man, like I got to be real with myself and come to the conclusion that I have no basis to confidently say that I'm going to be able to look a girl in her eyes and promise her that for the next 40 years, longer than I've existed, I am just going to consistently be involved with your cooch.
Wow.
And so I thought to myself, look, like for me, what's important is, let me just make this confession. I really, really like cooch personally. I am very passionate about cooch.
And cooch is what? Cooch is sex?
Oh, cooch is vagina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay.
And so I said to myself, look, I have a dilemma because I love vagina, but also I don't like cheating.
Okay.
And I don't like stealing people's reality from them. I think it's unethical morally. It's morally wrong and unethical to steal a woman's reality from her.
Yeah.
And to waste a woman's time.
Okay.
And so I said to myself, okay, so how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with these conflicting values? Okay. My love of cooch is not a value. Let me not elevate it. To deal with the fact.
Okay.
To deal with the fact that, look, I actually don't want to have one cooch for the rest of my life. I just don't want that.
Yeah.
Well, this was me at the time. I've evolved since then, but I'm just telling the story of the time in my early days. Mm-hmm. But also, I don't want to rush. And so I try in life to approach life with a value that says, try to tell the truth or at least don't lie. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I met Earth, and I call her Earth because she grounded me. You know, she was stable. She was consistent. Like for your listeners who are into sports, she was like a metronomic N'Golo Kante type midfielder. You know, the one that just keeps the team stable,
yes,
balanced, and just keeps things solid. Right?
Yeah.
I met her. We started dating. We had a really, really dope relationship. And we reached the point, as relationships do, where you ask, look, what are we like? You know, what are we? That conversation, which usually comes after maybe the third, fourth time you have sex. You know?
Correct.
Then it's like, okay, you cannot continue to live here rent free.
Yes.
We now need you to finally we need you to finally. And so when that conversation came up, I was like, look, like I'm enjoying this, I'm loving it, but I don't want to make promises that I can't keep. I'm enjoying this, but if I was to tell you that I'm going to succeed at being faithful, I would be lying to both of us. Mm-hmm. So what are we to do with this? What are we to do? And of course, she was shocked. She was shocked at first. Oh, I did mention, of course, that this happened in West Africa, and why that's important is she was Senegalese.
Okay.
Earth was Senegalese, and she Muslim, right? And so the idea of polygamy was not foreign.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Her mother was in a polygamous marriage and stuff. So she said to me, "Look, dude, I actually really respect you. Honestly, I've never had a guy who had the balls to come and be straight up about this thing. And what I appreciate about the fact that we're having this conversation is you're a real one because you aren't going to sell me a dream and then behind my back steal my reality. And I appreciate it. And I said, okay, no, that's great. And she had met, I was working for an international institution in West Africa. And so there was a Zulu girl who, as fate would have it, the Zulu culture is also polygamous too, right?
Wow.
Who had a similar background. And they happened to really get along. And in our conversations before we got out for drinks, she was like, yo, that girl's really cool. I'm like, really like fascinated with her intellectually. It wasn't really like a sexual like bi type thing. It was just like, wow, she's such a cool girl.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, like, what do you think of the Zulu girl? And I was like, yo, like, I'm very happy that you asked because I'm super into her.
Wow.
And I was going to, if I hadn't taken this approach, I would have probably been with you and tried on the side to win the Zulu land.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, let's formalize it. Chris was like, let's formalize this thing. And so with her consent, I went to the Zulu girl and I had the chat and I said, look, I've never done this before. I don't know much about this. All I know is that I feel earth. Let's call the Zulu girl water, right? She's water. And she's water because she's just down with it. She's like a creative midfielder. Put her in a cup, she becomes the cup. Put her in a bottle,
I'm enjoying all these analogies and so forth. This has really got me engaged. Go on, brother.
Hey, man, I guess this is why I won. I must say, the gift of the gab did help me.
It makes sense.
my three girl scenario. And so what I spoke to Water about it, and Water was like, yo, look, like I'm into you too. And I'm down. And so what I then did at that point is I set up a WhatsApp group. And I put Earth and Water in the group, and I was like, look, guys, my main problem is I'm actually a really busy guy, and I'm going to have trouble saying good morning. How's your day? How's your day?
Oh
like,
my
trying to handle,
God.
like, I'm not really good at multitasking. So I set up this, and so that conversation can be fluid, and so that when I say good morning, I'm talking to
both of you.
And so I mean, apologies. I do have to say one thing because the group was called Mahumbwe.
Okay.
And so for you listeners who don't know what Mahumbwe is it's a solid term for playing house, right? It's like, remember we were all kids, you play house. And I called it Mahumbwe because, like, the great thing about playing house is when you're kids, people play house, no one really knows what their roles are, right?
Yeah.
You sort of fit it out as you play along. And so I thought, hey, that's a pretty apt name for what we're trying to do. We're just trying to experiment and figure it out, and we're gonna see how this is progressing.
Okay.
And so that was going well. That was going really well, actually. It was a balanced situation. And I guess the question that perhaps some of your listeners would want to listen is, but why would these girls agree to both?
Correct.
And look, like, it's a real thing, man. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but in Africa, like, I think there are like 3 to every guy,
Mm-hmm.
And so in my twisted logic at the time, I was like, yo, it's an act of service, guys. Like, why must someone lose out? Why must somebody lose out? Maybe if you're a stable guy with the means, maybe it makes sense to not leave others in the cold. It just seemed like it was a bit unfair. And so that's how the situation started. But just get to the end and we'll see how we tie it all together. But what happened then was fire came into the picture. We went clubbing. Earth and Water, we went clubbing. And
the 3 of you went clubbing.
So we used to go clubbing together. We used to go on holidays together. We used to do everything together. We were like a thing.
Okay.
For a girl from Senegal and a Zulu girl, for them, they understand what it's about.
Okay.
So it was nothing strange. And they genuinely got along, right? But then you see, and this is where the story got wrong, is then I got greedy because I met Fire. And Fire is actually named Fire because she was fire. She was fire. And so I went to my girlfriend. It's so funny to say it now. But yeah, I went to my girlfriend and I was like, look, guys, look, I thought this would be such a shit, but I just need to see something. I need to see something. And so I went on a couple of dates with Fire, and that was going well. And then I had to explain to Fire what the situation was, and I was like, look, I'm in a polyamorous situation. I have 2 girlfriends.
Yeah.
And you either need to come into the WhatsApp group or this needs to end. And she was like, oh, that's quite interesting, actually. Let me hop into the... that's how I ended up with 3 girlfriends sharing a WhatsApp group.
Oh my gosh!
And just on a day-to-day basis, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It sounds like an ideal situation, but I must say, that situation evolved. I'm no longer in it.
Okay.
It ended badly for me.
How so? What happened?
I think ultimately it hurt my psyche. And it diminished the awesomeness of these 3 ladies. I think emotionally and physically, frankly, I got drained.
Okay.
It was good for about 4 months. And then after that, I realized that, no, man, it's I kind of understand why monogamy is a thing, because it takes a lot of emotional energy to be with someone, and being with 3 women became emotionally taxing. The other thing I must mention is the value, I guess, that I was adding to my 3 girlfriends was we were all searching for the same thing. We were all trying to figure out what are relationships about. What they had all come out of relationships where they had trusted a guy. The guy had really, really in their heart. The guy had cheated on them. And so they were just like, look, what if men are genuinely incapable of being unfaithful?
Yeah.
And at least now I'm in a situation where I'm going into it with my eyes wide open. And at least this guy has had the moral fortitude and the courage to risk losing me, even though I know he really likes me, by being honest about the fact that he's probably not going to screw me for the next 4 years. And so from that just came the ability to communicate to them just a different approach to life, one just based on pure honesty, a lot of vulnerability. And the group became sort of like a support group, like a therapeutic support group where we helped each other deal with all sorts of issues.
Okay.
It became a group you could communicate about what was on at work, what was happening. And so they got the benefit, the girls got the benefit of having me as a guy give them perspective, but also have girlfriends, sister wives, who could also contribute and give them a more empathetic and female approach to what the situation was.
I guess my question at this point would be, did they all get along, all 3 of them?
So all 3 of them got along really well. And what was interesting, man, is that they started to collaborate in interesting ways. And so they would be like, yo, I've just given Amandi the greatest head. And like, she would like, take a video with a banana.
Yes.
And she would take a video with a banana and be like, so this is the tactic I used. So, yo,
my goodness.
Maybe try this, because like he really liked it. He went back and let me know how he responds to you when you do it. And hey, don't wear him out because he has a busy day tomorrow and so forth. So they were actually surprisingly really collaborative. There wasn't any jealousy, and I think it's also because, look, I think Fire, like the sex with Fire was the best. Like, so my physical relationship with Fire was fire.
Yeah.
With Earth, it was more like spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And with water, it was more of like a mental connection. And so I guess they just felt as though none of their territories were really being infringed upon,
Wow.
And so that's where we were at, man. But it all went horribly wrong when Fire, the free spirit, the creative one, like met some other dude. She met some other dude, and she started like cheating on us,
Okay.
She was like doing her own on the side.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand. This is when I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. When I say it hurt my psyche, it was because I was really heartbroken, right? By a situation that really just mirrored what I was doing. And so the hypocrisy of it then came to light. And because I was so heartbroken by Fire's deception,
yeah,
the other girls were like, but then you have me. Like, why are you so heartbroken when I am here? Like,
yeah.
what's going on? And then the whole thing devolved. It devolved.
That is, I mean, I am literally lost for words because I've read about polyamorous arrangements and a lot of them seem to happen within the United States. I've bumped into a couple of polyamorous discussions and groups here in the UK whilst I was working on a documentary, but nothing quite like this within Africa, because what happens in Africa is you have a lot of polygamy, but you don't have polyamorous arrangements. And because this has come into life, one, I'm intrigued by the existence of it, but more importantly, I'm intrigued by your feeling of hurt and pain when someone outside the unit decided to be with someone else. Now, it almost seems unfair. Because she has now felt that she wants to have a different group, which could potentially be another polyamorous arrangement. So that should be okay, right? In principle.
Right. It should be okay, man. It should be okay. But then, I realized that, you can't really, my mistake was I tried to approach something that's fundamentally emotional in a super logical, calculated way. So the heart has reasons that reason does not know, right? And so I can't explain to you why it hurt so much. I think it hurt so much because of the deception. I mean, what got me into this situation to start off with was my obsession with communicating with people in an honest and transparent way.
Yeah.
And my firm belief, and this is what I try to teach my girls, was that the truth hurts only if you love the lie. Like, you shouldn't have a problem. Like, if I come to you as a guy, and perhaps, I hope I'm not getting into trouble here, but look, I doubt I'm the only guy who projects their life 40 years into the future and cannot fathom how they're going to survive off one cooch.
Wow.
And so that was the thing. I didn't like the fact that she lied about it,
Yeah.
If she had come to me like, yo, listen, Amandi, I have met this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm really into him, which happened a couple of times, by the way. And that was not the worst. I could deal with that, and we could actually talk about it. And she's like, you just went around. I was feeding this guy, and I thought you'd been emotionally unavailable for a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the difficult thing about being in a situation like that is that you go through phases. Like, sometimes you're about earth because you need the spiritual connection. Yes. Sometimes you're about fire. It's hard to balance it all.
Yeah.
And so invariably there's neglect. And in those situations of neglect, what I noticed is that my girlfriends would respond by like nature abhors a vacuum, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever I created the vacuum, they would fill it with another guy. And what happens when you try and fragment that is that you never fully show up for anyone in particular.
Yeah.
And invariably they sense that. And so what they do is then they look to fill that void. So then I was just left on my ass alone. All three of my shorties
Ain't life funny? Yeah.
It was a real tough time. And so, look, ultimately, it all went wrong when Fire cheated.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, what I was doing, I mean, I think is the opposite of cheating, right? Because to me, cheating implies deceit. There's an element of pretending to be one thing while you're doing something else.
Yeah.
And so when she did that, it really, really broke me, man. It really did. I was just devastated. And also just because the sex was just so, I cannot explain to you.
Yeah, it was fire. Literally, it was fire.
It was the most fire cruise. Okay, stop what it out. Stop what it out. It was, it was an instant Hall of Fame cooch. Like, shout out to Fire's cooch, man. Shout out to that. And so the idea that someone else was enjoying it affected me more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And then because of the way I felt, then you just deal with the hypocrisy of it all. And I mean, in this patriarchal, then you got to start thinking about patriarchy and what am I doing? Like, why do I think that? Why do I feel the need to have 3 women in my life?
Yeah.
And when they want to have 3 dudes, why am I not comfortable being one of the 3?
Yeah.
And so it just brought to the fore a lot of these really, really complicated gender dynamics that we need to think through and really, really look into.
And then ultimately
the
whole thing then just crumbled.
The whole thing just crumbled, man. And ultimately, like, I miss Earth the most. Earth was everything. Like, she was. Like she was wifey, man. She really was. And like, I think the reason why everything went wrong was because she was like, but I'm your anchor, man. Like, what's happening? Like, Earth is just, Fire is just, she's just another girl. But then now, your interaction with me has been affected by her behavior. Like, I can feel that your heart is broken when you're dealing with me.
Yeah.
And a big part of this thing is that you have to be able to compartmentalize. When you're with me, you're with me.
Yeah.
When you're with her, you're with her. And now, like, everything's meshing into each other, and that's unacceptable. And so that's not what I signed up for. And I'm going to bounce. Wow. And so I lost everything, man. I got greedy and I lost everything.
So just as we're wrapping this up, I know the most important lesson here is for guys not to have 3 girlfriends, right? Because it just doesn't work. And what it does is really highlight how good actually just being with one person could be. And we know that for you, that one person is Earth. So I got one question before I close this off. If Earth was to present herself right now and say, look, let's try this again, would you make it happen?
I would make it happen, but I'd say, look, every 5 years, can I smash another show?
Oh, wow. Oh, you are beyond any form of salvation or help. Wow.
Look, let me put it to you this. I don't know if it's just me, man. I don't know if it's just me. But I genuinely find it very difficult to foresee a situation where I have with one woman for 40 years.
Yeah.
But that's just because I'm just very passionate about cooch,
Yeah.
And so, look, I think the more I have grounded myself in issues of spirituality, like I'm taking my faith more and stuff, I realize that I've been able to better be consistent.
Yeah.
And so I would need her to know that I would love to be with her, and I miss her so much all the time. But then the only thing I don't know how to promise her that she's going to be the only girl who I'm going to be with.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I can't. And I'd rather not have her than lie to her.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in that people listening to this podcast can pick up. I've done a couple of episodes where people could not be honest, people could not be upfront, and that's resulted in all sorts of messes. But because you were upfront and honest, everyone was on the same page. And quite contrary to what your name means, right when we started, it says your name means trust no one. You ended up trusting everyone because you guys came out to the fore and you were very open with stuff. So for everybody who's listening to this lockdown episode, which I found very peculiar and interesting, is that if you're open and upfront with things, you're more likely to have more positive results than being deceitful. And I can't be a proponent of this, and I can't be seen to saying, look, if you feel like having a polyamorous arrangement, go ahead and do so. Well, that's entirely up to you to do, but it feels like if you're transparent about stuff, it does help. But ultimately, the lesson boils down to do not have 3 girlfriends, because that just becomes an admin issue. It's emotionally draining, it's financially draining, it's sexually draining, possibly. And that absence of you within that arrangement could ultimately mean it's going to fail.
100%. And just to add conclusion, buddy, just to say that, like, I think ultimately, like, that which you need the most will be found where you least want to look. And you got to embrace your shadow. Like, for me, like, it was important for me to embrace my shadow, to understand, like, the worst aspects of me and try to incorporate them so that I can have an honest relationship with one woman. And I definitely think that because of that experience and because I went through that process of just trying to be honest and seeing what happened, it failed dismally, but what it did is it's made me more able now and much, much, much more in favor of monogamy than what seems like a dream life of having 3 girls.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, again, another unique, really, really special and different episode of the Feeling Station. I hope it's inspired you, at least to be honest, with the people that you have around you. If it's not one person, you've been inspired to be honest with the others. And I'd love to hear how that works out for you. So if you do feel like you want to get in touch, drop me a message in my inbox and let me know how that works out. I am Tinto, your host for The Feeling Station, and I look forward to catching you in the next episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over. Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Rudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Rudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.